Hey, Lynx Outdoors here, and in this video I want to do a review of my Timmermade gear. A lot of folks have requested it because it's a smaller company that many people haven't heard of, and it's kind of hard to find information on these products and reviews other than straight from the website itself. So in this video, basically I'm going to show you the different Timmermade gear that I have, which is a Serpentes 20 false bottom sleeping bag, a winter Wren 10 degree false bottom sleeping bag. I also have their super duper ultralight 1.5 down pullover jacket, as well as the 0.75 super duper ultralight pullover jacket. And then lastly, I have the super ultralight balaclava, or the Waterbear they call it, I believe. And then I have the warmer rated one too, that are both down. And then in addition to all that too, I almost forgot, I do have a DCF non-breathable rain jacket made by Timmermade as well. So in this video, I'm gonna go through those pieces, show you some of the information. We'll do some weights. I'll tell you a little bit about the company. So if that's what you're interested in, please stick around. Let's get started really quick with talking about the company Timmermade, because you may or may not be familiar with it. So the owner and the person that's in charge of the company, his name is Dan Timmerman, and that's where the name comes from, is Timmermade. And so he is in, I believe, upstate New York, or somewhere in New York State, not the city. And basically he specializes in custom ultralight down. That's his sort of bread and butter, and that's what he's becoming very famous for. So he uses the lightest possible materials and the highest quality down to make offerings for the lightest possible weights that you can find in things in their class, without it being so non-durable that it just fell apart. So that's kind of what he's famous for. There are usually in-stock items on the website. If you go to timmermade.com, there's usually like a in-stock selection, but it's usually like garments, like Alpha Direct type products. And oftentimes if you want anything made, including all of the sleeping system stuff, you have to place an order, and it's custom made for you. So on the website, there's very good articles and suggestions explaining to you the different materials you can choose from, the different downfills you can choose from. You can get synthetic stuff as well if that's what you prefer. But the big thing is a lot of it has measurements, and he can do custom pieces. And that's what he does. So he offers things usually in a small, medium, large, extra large range, and gives you the measurements for all those things for all of the garments. And then the same thing, he gives you different measurements for the common sizes, for the girth up here at the shoulder, the chest, the waist, and the foot box. But you can provide your own information for any of those things, and he'll make it specific to you. So if you are very, very tall and skinny and you can't ever find anything that fits, or the opposite, whatever the case might be, you can get custom stuff made for you from an extremely high quality professional company that makes excellent stuff. In terms of reviewing the company in general, I've emailed and had conversations back and forth with Dan multiple times as I've tried to decide what pieces I wanted to have him make for me. And he's been very responsive. He gets back to you right away, and he's got a ton of good information, and he really helped me pick stuff out. And I'm very satisfied with every interaction I've had with him. I think it's great. In terms of quality of the items, they're pristine. They're top notch. I've never found a single stitch or problem or defect with any of the things that I've ever had from Timmermade. I consider them a premium company. They make extremely, extremely high quality stuff. Like, they're kind of like the Ferrari or the Lamborghini of down garments, in my opinion. This is not sponsored in any way, by the way. I've paid lots of my own money for all of these custom things. Pricing, I guess that's a good segue into pricing. So as you might imagine, if you're having something custom made for you out of premium materials, it's going to be expensive. So these are not for everybody. You are going to pay a premium for them. But if it is within your budget and you're looking for extremely high quality custom stuff, it's tough to beat. It's extremely good quality stuff at a pretty high price point thing. But not ridiculous either. I own sleeping bags that cost more than my Timmermade stuff that were not custom. They're just winter bags. So I want to make sure that that's clear. Downsides of the company, well, it is a small operation, and they're becoming more and more famous, and the demand is huge. And what I do applaud him for is he's not willing to just batch stuff out as fast as he can for profit. And what he's done in an attempt to try to reduce the overall load that he can have on him at any one time is that he has monthly caps. And once he's reached a certain amount of orders, and I believe it's US dollars that determines this, it closes the ability to custom order things. So you can't just go put yourself on a wait list, because I think that wait list by this point is many, many weeks, if not months. And you have to kind of, it reminds me of like the classic camping out for concert ticket things. Basically, when the month resets at midnight on the very first, so you're talking midnight of the 30th or the 31st before the month, you have to be on your computer and you need to be able to add everything to cart really fast because it sells out usually in less than an hour from what I'm understanding. So that is a bit frustrating, and that's just because there's a super high demand, and that's the system he currently has in place to try to handle that. So I don't believe it's the best system. I don't have a better suggestion that I could offer to him. I think personally I'd rather put my name on a 16-week long wait list than have to try to do that whole like camp out thing. But that being said, it just is what it is. There's so much demand for his products that it's hard to get an order in for them. And that's my biggest issue with the company. I'm sure there's less workload if you get them done in non-peak season. If you're looking to get something made for a thru hike, don't order it the December before your spring thru hike starts. If you ordered something towards the end of summer, I would imagine that it's probably a less busy time for him. And you could also email him and ask him about less busy times. I'm sure he'd be happy to tell you when he would prefer your order as opposed to on the pile during the busy times of the year. So anyway, that's enough about the company. If you have any questions about that I might know, leave them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer you. But let's actually talk about the products really quick now so I can show you and sort of do a review on each one of these things. So this is my Timmermade Serpentes 20-degree false bottom sleeping bag. The material here is very, very thin. It's called argon, and I think it's the argon 47 if I'm not mistaken. It's the lightest weight synthetic fabric that he offers this in, and the color is Moroccan blue. That's sort of the theme color that I went with for all of my stuff. So this particular sleeping bag is what he calls his fetal or bent knee sleeping bags for people that either sleep in the fetal position or it's really good for side sleepers that curl up kind of in a ball with their knees bent and they bring their knees up to their chest. The reason that I went for that, and it's not that I actually don't sleep that way myself, the reason that I went for that is because there's a ton of room up here in the chest area. And what I really, really love about this particular sleeping bag is that in the morning I can sit up and kind of scrunch the bag down a little bit, and I can sit with my knees crossed on my sleeping mat still in my tent and have this come all the way up over my neck still. So it's so nice in camp, still inside my tent, to be able to do that and kind of pack things up, staying in my sleeping bag and also having my breakfast and my cold coffee, which is just what I do in my routine in the morning while I'm still wearing this thing and I'm still inside of here. So I really like that. The other thing is if I'm very, very cold, I have had some nights where I've tucked this under myself like this to make a smaller inside, and then I've just kind of slept in a ball in here because it's warmer keeping your legs tucked up by your chest. It's more thermally efficient for your body to keep things heated that way. So I really like this design. There's a lot of good information on his website. If you're trying to decide between the bent knee and the regular, I would recommend that you read some of his articles because there's pros and cons to it. The biggest con that I have to it is that because it's so roomy in there, it's not as thermally efficient, right? There's a ton of room. You can really move around in your arms and elbows and everything. You can it makes changing a lot easier inside a bag like this. And I've actually had trips where my dog was really cold and she had a jacket on and things, but she woke up a couple hours before dawn really freezing. And there was enough room that I was able to put her in here with me. And so that was a fun, cuddly, warm morning because she really added some heat too. So we both really liked that. So anyway, the reason that it's called a false bottom sleeping bag instead of a quilt is there's a very thin sheet of material here that's not insulated. And it's essentially like a quilt that's sewn together. So you do lose some of the versatility of when it's really hot out and you want to kind of untuck like a quilt would do, or using it as a blanket. So you do lose that versatility, but what you gain is less likelihood of cold spots because your body weight is pinning this nylon down to your pad. The pad provides your warmth, not the down that's getting crushed underneath you. And so that's what this material does, is it basically keeps it from being able to be untucked, and it has down that comes and gets tucked behind you, but you're not actually crushing that extra weight. So the one thing that you have to be able to do with this is when you're rolling over, if you toss and turn a lot like I do, you have to make sure that your body stays pinning that fabric down and that you're turning inside the bag. Whereas sometimes with a mummy bag, you might take the whole bag with you. But if you were to do that, let me rotate it towards you. If you were to do that, you will feel this cold spot. So it's really good if you're a sound sleeper, if you're a back sleeper, or if you sleep on your side, as long as you don't thrash too much, because if you expose that, it is going to be cold. Now that being said, a quilt would do the same thing. right? So this is definitely, it's a hybrid in between a traditional mummy bag and a quilt. And there's pros and cons to it. Some people have said that they thought it was silly, but for somebody like myself that tosses and turns a lot, I get a lot better sleep with this than I do with a quilt, even when using pad straps and stuff, just because I don't get those cold spots as often, personally. So the Serpentes model is a little bit different than the other models that he makes, because this is the lightest possible offering that he does. One of the ways that he saves weight there is instead of having a full down baffle around the neck, there are these snaps. And so essentially you get in and then you can snap this closed, and it helps bring some of the down around the back of your neck. Where's the other one? There's two. Oh, it's on the inside. The second one is on the bottom. So this helps bring the baffles in closer around the back of your neck. And then on most of his models, there's a cinch cord with a cord lock. And then the cinches down pretty tight around your neck and prevents heat loss up through the top there. These snaps are pretty comfortable. I've never really had them dig into me. Usually I'm using a pillow. So these are oftentimes like not pressed with my body weight, so they don't really bother me. And this ability right here gives you a ton of room to get in and out of the bag too. Some people have asked, like, what about like overheating? To be honest, this is such a big opening that if you sort of fold it open like this and sleep with your arms out, I have never had a problem of it being too hot for me. My experience with this bag, I had this made for me and it wasn't ready for my Continental Divide through hike. So when it was actually ready for me, I was already mid-trip. I was about halfway done. I was in the Colorado area. And so my wife came out to visit me at Steamboat Springs, which is right around the halfway point, and she brought me this stuff. So I used this from Steamboat Springs to Canada, so the last basically like 1,500-ish miles of the Continental Divide Trail. And then I used this exact same sleeping bag from right around Big Bear City on the Pacific Crest Trail, which is like the first 400-ish miles, all the way to the rest of it, to the finish, to Canada. So I've got a lot of time in this bag. I just got it back. I send these things out to get professionally cleaned, and it's as lofty as it was when it was brand new. So the down in here is super good quality, 1,000 fill. A lot of the other bags, by default, oftentimes have a 900 fill that is hydro treated to be water resistant and condensation resistant. So yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to talk about with the Serpentes. In terms of the sizing of this one, if you were to go to his website and look at the sizing options, I did not do custom dimensions for this. I did the second largest set of dimensions. So that'll make sense if you're at his website. There's 4 different default sizing options that you can do for length and the different widths. So this is the second largest, if that gives you an idea of size. Hopefully that helps. I'm gonna climb in these in a little bit later on in the video and just show you what it looks like when I'm lying down inside of it with the hoods as well. So let's really quickly talk about how the hoods work, and then I'll move on to the winter Wren. So let's talk about these hoods, or the balaclavas, really quick. So one area that Timmermade allows you to save weight is by having these modular hoods that can be used all by themselves as a hat. And you can also use these with your false bottom sleeping bags or quilts. They work just fine on a quilt if you already have it, even if it's not a Timmermade. They're just really good quality, comfy, ultralight hoods, essentially. And then the other thing is that you can use his jackets and not get the hoods attached to the jackets, and now you can use this as a hood on your jacket as well. So this one hood gives you multiple purposes, as opposed to having a mummy bag with a hood and a down jacket with a hood. That adds weight of always having some extra down insulation in the hood, and unless you're freezing cold and wearing both at the same time at night, sometimes you could get away with just having the one. So that's the theory behind it. The other thing that's really nice about having a hood as opposed to a true mummy bag, which I have a whole bunch of and I've used for years, is that this stays with you. So I roll over a lot in my sleep, especially if I have a bad camp spot, like if there's rocks and roots and I'm on a slope, I toss and turn a lot. So what this allows you to do is, where the false bottom sleeping bag stays still, this allows you to turn inside of that sleeping bag, and it always gives you the ability to breathe out even if you're on your side. Because if you did that in a traditional mummy bag and you didn't bring the bag with you, you would turn, your face would be inside the insulation, and you'd be breathing kind of like right up against the nylon, and sometimes that gets kind of slimy and condensation-y, and it's also compromising the down. It's making it a little bit wet, which is making it less warm. So anyway, these are the 2 different models that I have. This was bigger than I was expecting. So hopefully this helps you understand the size of this. This is the Waterbear. This is like the classic one. You can get these in synthetic or down. Both of these are down. So this one here has a full neck baffle. They have ultralight synthetic around the face, and that allows you a couple things to do. One is that if you do cinch this way down, you can use it almost like as a face mask, or if it's really cold, you can cinch it all the way down and just have like a little breathing hole. And because this is synthetic, the moisture from your breath is going into the synthetic material instead of the down, and it dries incredibly fast. So it works really well for its purpose. The other thing is when you put this on as a hood, you can tuck this in inside like so, and you can tighten it up while your head's in there. And what that does is it really closes up all the gaps and makes it so you're not losing as much heat out through there. So it works really well for that purpose. The warmest one, this one here, I will say is nicer when it's really cold out, but it's overkill for what I consider 3-season backpacking, where you might have a few nights that get into the mid-20s. If it's gonna be really, really cold, this might be a good choice for you, especially if you're already a quilt sleeper. If it gets that cold personally, I don't even use false bottom sleeping bags or quilts. I go to a true mummy bag, like a winter bag, if I'm gonna be in something that cold. But anyway, that's just me. This would be a good choice for you because it's very, very warm. This is the one that I purchased afterwards, and this is much more my style. So this one you can open and close with these snaps. This is the super ultralight down version. So there's 2 snaps that make it a little too tight to be able to pull on and off over your head like a hat. You do have to snap them around your face. And then it also has the same kind of synthetic layer liner here, but this one, as opposed to having a cord lock and having a closed loop, like this one does, this one is a giant U. So they're separate down here. Hopefully that makes sense. So you can still close this up, but you do kind of have to tie a bow. But that makes it so you can actually put it on and off without pulling it over your head, which is kind of a nice thing. This one is substantially smaller and lighter, which I actually prefer. And now, ever since I've gotten this one, I haven't used this guy, to be completely honest with you. So a lot of the times this was too warm for me. I'd rather sleep in just a hat. But this was really nice on some of the really high mountainous areas of the Continental Divide, but most of the time it was overkill. So unless you do a lot of stuff in winter or you're really, really cold in general, this guy, in my opinion, might be a little bit too bulky and warm and heavy. It's not heavy, but heavier than something like this for you. So just think about that, because this thing here is very, very warm, and it's much smaller and much more livable, in my opinion, because I really like how that can come on and off. So anyway, that's the information on those. Let me get you the weights on both of these pieces. I'm going to use this as a bigger rest to put these on, but it's actually a great way to tell you really quickly, because I know you're here for Timmermade stuff, really quickly about my woodworking company. It's a very small one-man show. It's myself. It's called lynxwoodworking.com, and I make all sorts of custom and personalized woodworking, epoxy boards. I've had a couple viewers actually have projects where they had ideas for things that talked about their start and finish dates to celebrate their trips, and it was awesome to get to help make those as well. So please consider checking that out. I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, so we take the tear of this. Yep, there we go. And so this bigger guy here is coming in at 81 grams, which, if you prefer units of ounces, this weighs 2.8 ounces. So it's not heavy, it's very bulky and warm. And then switching over to the super ultralight one, this one is more than an ounce lighter, or less than an ounce. It weighs 1.7 ounces, which, if you go back to grams, is 49 grams. So it's significantly lighter and smaller, and packs down smaller. So this is what I personally prefer between having the two for 3-season or especially summertime backpacking. All right, so let's talk about the winter Wren, or this translates to the regular Wren model as well. So the Wren is a warmer temperature, what's the right way to say this? There's more down and a more conservative temperature rating on the Wren model than there is on the Serpentes. The Serpentes is the project that he worked on to get it as light as he can while he still feels confident that it's a warm bag. This particular bag here, if you were to take a 20-degree Wren and take a 20-degree Serpentes, they're actually going to have different amounts of weight of fill in them because of the temperature system, and I'm sure Dan can explain that better to you than I just did. However, just know that if you are a really cold sleeper and you're debating between the two, you will be warmer in the Wren model for the same temperature rating than you will the Serpentes. That's one thing I can comfortably say. This particular model differs than the Serpentes in the fact that the false bottom area here, which the Serpentes has as well, there is a pad strap that it comes with, which helps keep this in place. I did use it sometimes. Where I found it really helped me was when I was sleeping on a slope, but I'm such a toss and turny sleeper that the pad strap a lot of times still allowed this to get exposed just because I thrash so much. So I didn't end up really bringing the pad strap. I sent that home fairly early on just because I found I wasn't using it. Most folks I've talked to don't use the pad strap, but it's removable, so that is a nice feature. The other main difference is that the Wren has a fully down collar, whereas the Serpentes had that nylon opening that had the snaps. And so I can tell you that this is much warmer because it does have down baffles that go all the way behind your head with the same drawstring system that closes that way up, and it makes this overall much warmer. There's less heat escaping, and there's more down all the way behind your head, and it's a lot warmer. So I had this one made in a 10 degree, and the reason that I wanted that was because there were some times when I used the Serpentes 20 on the Continental Divide that got down into the low 20s, and even though it's a 20-degree bag, it's important to understand your body and to know your comfort range. And so I was still cold in the 20-degree Serpentes sometimes when it got into the low 20s inside my tent. So I wanted something that was a little bit warmer, both in the temperature rating and also with its insulation rating. So this thing is super warm. And I also wanted it to be more thermally efficient. So whereas the Serpentes that I have is the second largest of the pre-sized measurements for the sleeping bags that you can get made, this is one size down. Because I can easily get in and out of that Serpentes, even if the neck things are snapped. I probably should have a smaller size than I do of that. That being said, though, it's just so roomy in there. I love it for the summer. Anyway, talking about this one. I used this particular sleeping bag from the very beginning of the Pacific Crest Trail until about Big Bear City, so about 400 miles in. I got a really late start on purpose because I'm pretty fast, and I knew that I would be able to go quicker than the average person chooses to go on the Pacific Crest Trail. So I started May 18th. And so it was already pretty warm. It was getting hotter and hotter out. It's not like I started in early April or late March where the desert is still below freezing often. I really didn't have any below freezing nights in the desert at all. I don't think I had a single one actually. And the coldest that it got for me was in the Sierra, and I was there in June. So there was only a couple times it got below freezing at all. So the Serpentes 20-degree sleeping bag would have been the perfect one for me to start to use the whole thing with. So if I do another through hike or just any backpacking in general where it's shoulder season, this would be a good choice. All right, let's talk about the garments. So these are the super duper ultralight SDUP jackets that I have. And so what makes these things sort of special is that they've got the highest amount of down in weight percentage out of overall weight of any garments that I've seen, because we're using such thin materials and so much down that these garments are extremely light. The other thing that makes them really special or different than many other jackets that you might see out there is that they have more larger baffles with less sewing for the baffles. What that translates to is less cold spots, because in simple garments like this, where the baffle is sewn, on the inside is pinched. So it's basically like cold spots. So the less baffles you have, the more thermally efficient the jacket can be. And also to keep these weights down, you can get them like I did without a zipper. So this is a pullover. And so that doesn't bother me. I'm not ever in the point where I really need to be able to get in and out of it super fast with a zipper. That does give you the ability, you do lose the ability to not be able to vent by unzipping. But basically the way that most folks through hike or backpack, including myself, is this is only really used in camp when you're kind of hanging out, either sleeping in if it's very, very cold, or hanging out in camp before or after you pack up and get going. So that's the only time I ever really wore these. And for me, I don't need it to zip up for that. There are neck cinches, so you can bring the neck baffle, which it does have down in it, around your neck. And also there are elastic wrist cuffs that do a good job. And in addition, there is another one of these shock cords and cord locks at the bottom so you can kind of close it around your waist. I will model all this stuff for you so you can kind of get an idea on the fit in just a minute. And just like I was saying, every single damn thing I've ever owned, you're gonna have some feathers that work their way out. It's important to not pull it out because you actually can make the hole larger. So here's a tip for you, whenever, including your sleeping bag, whenever you find a feather trying to work its way out, do your best to pinch the top, and then you can usually pull it right back in. You paid a lot of money for that down, keep it in there. Anyway, so this is the super duper ultralight 1.5, which is referring to the 1.5 inches of loft that it's designed to fill. And this is the warmest one that he makes, unless you do something really custom with him. So this is the other super duper ultralight. Both of these are size large, by the way, I didn't say that. So this is the 0.75. So this is essentially, it's the same design as this. It's just about half of the loft. And so it's significantly lighter in down weight too. But just about everything else on it is the same. The features and everything are the same. If you're in between, you're not sure which one you want to go for, again, this is just my experience and recommendation. So personally, when I got this, especially the balaclava, this pairing, in my opinion, this is a true winter garment. If you were to wear this during the day and walk around in this thing, it would have to be below, for me, it would have to be below 0 for me to be able to walk around with my backpack in something like that because it is so warm. And it's not meant to be walked around in. I bought it to use it as camp stuff or to sleep in case it got like dangerously cold. And so when I first opened the box and saw these things, they were much bigger and loftier and than I was expecting. They're still very, very light. They're incredibly light for what they are, and they're super good quality. But I think in hindsight, knowing what I know now, the 0.75 and the lighter weight balaclava are way more what I think most folks would use for their 3-season backpacking, unless you're super cold, where these are great options. But that was my own experience, was that these were so warm and lofty, which does mean to being a little bit harder to pack, right? So these are so bulky and stuff that I was just kind of taken aback. And they're extremely warm, good quality. I like them. I'm glad that I have them, but I almost exclusively only use these now. Okay, let's wrap things up with the last piece of Timmermade gear that I have, and this is the DCF Rain Jacket. So this is DCF, very similar to what the ultralight shelters, especially the trekking pole tents, are made out of, and it is not a breathable fabric. However, this rain jacket is extremely light, only weighing about 4 ounces. And it's extremely waterproof. It's just as waterproof as if you were wearing a tent because it's the same fabric. So I have a lot of rain jackets. I've tried a lot of rain jackets. I don't have the perfect one that I've fallen in love with, so I wanted to go with something different, especially on the Pacific Crest Trail when I had this made for me, because there's not a lot of rain on the West Coast in the summer. So I figured if I wasn't gonna be wearing this much, I'd like it to be as small and light as possible, and it worked pretty well for that. But let's talk about the features and some of the stuff with the jacket. Just like everything else I've ever had made by Timmermade, the quality is top notch. There was no defects. Everything is really nice and works as it should. So there's elastic in the cuffs. There is 2 cord locks with some shock cord around the hood. The back of the hood can cinch in by another shock cord and cord lock with these 4 tabs here. And there is, in addition to that too, there are also shock cord with cord locks around the waist. I mistakenly thought that the jacket, when you buy the regular rain jacket from Timmermade, it included pit zips, but it doesn't. I was wrong. So I actually realized that. I asked him about it afterwards, and he pointed out to me that it doesn't, and I looked at pictures, and I realized it doesn't. I just thought that it did. So I mailed it back and asked him to put some on for an additional charge, because I figured a non-breathable material, I would definitely want to be able to allow that excess moisture and to heat dump when I'm wearing this in the rain and working pretty hard. So anyway, my thoughts on this jacket. So this exact jacket by Timmermade, I think, is very good for what it is. I think it's a very high quality, well thought out, well constructed DCF rain jacket. It's my own personal opinion and experience that for me, a DCF rain jacket isn't the way that I like to go. The reason for that is all of the precipitation when you're working, when you're sweating, even if it's cold out and you're working hard carrying a backpack up mountains in the rain, you're still gonna produce perspiration and all that moisture gets trapped inside here. And so I found personally that I would wet this thing out from the inside out with my body sweat and precipitation, as opposed to it washing out from the rain. It's 100% waterproof. It's never going to leak through the outside. It's just not going to happen. So it is extremely waterproof from the outside, but at the same time, it's trapping all that moisture on the inside. And that's just the nature of a DCF Rain Jacket in general, or like a plain cheapo plastic tarp or poncho if you've ever worn one of those. So this particular style jacket is just not for me. But I don't have anything bad to say about the jacket. It's just about that type of jacket. It's just not what I ended up wishing that I had. And moving forward, my personal favorite style of rain jacket is a really lightweight Gore-Tex Packlight jacket. I've got a Montbell Versalight, which is my personal favorite rain jacket that I have, which is heavier than this, but I prefer some of the features and I like that fabric better for my own personal preference. Okay, so I want to model some of these things for you so you can see. This is a size medium Patagonia R1. I'm 5'11" with shoes on. I'm 6 feet. I'm about 155 pounds right now with my current physique post PCT. I didn't put that much weight on, which is great. All right, so this is a size large, no custom measurements on this one. The wrist cuffs to me fit really nice. I personally really like how much stretch they have. And they do a pretty good job keeping excess rain out, especially if you're using trekking poles. So it was never much of an issue of water getting into the wrists. So that was good. I really like the length. It does come down below my butt. I hate the feeling of when my shorts get wet and my boxer shorts get wet from the rain. It's just such an unpleasant feeling. So this does a good job of keeping the water from doing that. The adjustments in the back of this are really nice. You can really cinch it down pretty hard. And then the same thing, it basically lets my chin stick out here. But if it was really crappy weather, the hood can be really tight. So this is definitely squishing down, but if it was pouring like crazy, I'd be glad I had this. And then the fit zips, of course I'm standing in front of a fire while I'm doing this, right? So I'm gonna in a grid fleece. So I'm gonna overheat real fast. But anyway, the last thing I wanted to show you is the pit zips. So if I hold this out and extend my arm, the pit zips that he added are nice and big. I asked for them to be huge, and they do work pretty well for dumping heat. So anyway, very good quality. I personally think it fits me very well. I like the fit of the jacket. All right, so for the down garments, we've shed the fleece. This is just a thin, lightweight merino shirt. And I want to show you how these fit. It's a fairly symmetrical jacket, but the seam where the zipper would be is in the front, and then you can also find the logo, and that's how you know it's the front. So this is the Super Duper Ultralight 0.75 jacket. It also goes down below my butt, which I really like for camp. You can cinch it in really, really tight and close things off here with this shock cord. There's also one in the back for the neck, which is nice. So you can close that down to not lose heat out the top. Same deal, just like the rain jacket. It has nice elastic cuffs. The way that the hood can go on, you can either put it on after or before you pull the jacket on, in this case. So here we go. It is very warm, especially in front of a fire. But good range of motion, nice long arms. I really like the fit. It keeps it down pretty close. I really like the jacket a lot, and this hood. So here's the warmest offering, and for this particular balaclava, you do have to put it on first, and then put the jacket on second in order for this neck baffle to get tucked in nicely. So here's the fit. there's a ton of down. I mean, I'm very muffled to myself because there's so much insulation in here. But anyway, here's the fit. I really like the fit. Nice tight elastic cuffs, just like the smaller one. The cinches here. And then in the back here, I don't even need to cinch this down because this balaclava is so poofy, it's taking up that whole chimney anyway. But this is extremely warm, and I probably wouldn't personally pack this one over the other one unless I expected it to be below the 20s at camp at night. Okay, let's get you some weights. So I just wanted to show everything's going to be in this stuff sack because it's really hard to get big things on a small scale. So this stuff sack right now weighs 44 grams, which is 1.6 ounces. So I'm going to tear that out. So everything you see in the stuff sack, the weight of the stuff sack is being removed. Okay, so starting off with the lighter weight version. So this one's coming in at 1.8 ounces. Warmer version. Is coming in at 3 ounces. So this is the 1.5 super duper ultralight pullover. And that's 6.8 ounces. And then this is the 0.75 of the same thing, which weighs in at 5.6 ounces. I'm gonna do the same thing with the raincoat. And the rain jacket's coming in 4.1 ounces. Figured maybe it'd be helpful to you for you to get an idea of how stuffable these are and how much they pack down. So this is I would consider this to be a pretty large stuff sack. This came with a 15-degree Western Mountaineering sleeping bag, and I'm just using it right now because it was the closest stuff sack that I had on hand. This could get packed down way smaller. If that helps. You could get it way smaller than this. I'm just doing this for the weight, not so much to show you how small the bag can get. So this is weighing in at 19.3 ounces. Now let's do the same thing for the Wren 10. Same deal, this could get a lot smaller, just to give you an idea. This one weighs in at 21.2 ounces. So I know if it was me personally, I would really want to see somebody lying in these things to get an idea for their size and everything, so why not? This is the Serpentes 20. Really easy to get in and out of. You just pull it on like a pair of pants. For doing the snaps, they're really easy to do. I usually do them on my side before I close it up. Bring it up, make sure that you cinch this around the neck like so. You can use the hood, of course, but I'm already overheating because I'm in front of the fire. So basically this is it lying down. Hopefully you can hear me okay through the microphone. Rolling onto your side, you want the bag to stay where it is, so I'm trying to pin that nylon sheet down. But I can roll over this way, I can roll over this way. So this is what I was talking about when I'm waking up in the morning. So what I'll do is I'll bring my knees up just a little bit, and I can sit with my knees completely bent and take this and still cinch it up around myself. And this is how I'll have my coffee packet and my breakfast in the morning, is just like this. And it's a really nice way to transition from waking up to going out in the cold morning before the sun's up. And this thing is huge and roomy inside, really comfortable. There's a lot of room for your elbows, and it's really easy to change and get your clothes on and off in. So this is, like I said, this is the Serpentes 20 degree bag with the bent knee sleeping position, which is my preferred warmer weather bag, like in the 30s and 40s and up. Like, this is the most comfortable sleep system I currently have. I love the room in here. So this is the Wren 10. So I'm going to stop thrashing around so you can hear me. So the opening on this one I got in a smaller size because I wanted it to be more thermally efficient. But when I'm trying to put my elbows out, I can't. Basically, it's this bag I had sized more form-fitting to try to make it warmer for its temperature rating. And the way that I thrash and move around, I personally wish that I had this made in a larger size. It's not the bag's fault. I ordered it smaller than I wish that I did. Because it's actually fairly hard. I mean, you could see, hopefully see, there's not a whole lot of gap here, which is good, right? It's really warm. And I'd appreciate this if it was like 15 degrees out and I was freezing. But it's actually kind of hard for me to get my elbows in and out. So I hope that was helpful. I wanted to show all of the Timmermade items that I have and give you as much information on them as I could. Overall, just to recap, I think the company is extremely good quality. I love having custom things made for exactly how I want them to be. I love being able to shed as much weight as I choose, and using one hood for both my sleep system and my jacket is a way that I can do that. I like that part of my system. They are expensive. You get what you pay for. The quality and the construction of them are top notch. I've never had a single issue with any of that. Dan Timmerman of Timmermade is very nice to work with. I have always appreciated how quickly he's gotten back to me when I've had questions and things like that. And then the ordering system as of right now is probably the largest critique I have, but at the same time, I do applaud him for not skimping on quality to just rush out a bunch of orders. He's doing things in a super high quality way, and at the end of the day, I'd rather wait a little bit longer to get something that's made at a premium quality level rather than something that was rushed just so he could make his bank account go up. So I do applaud him for that, even though I think there might be a better solution to the ordering system rather than having to be camping your computer at the stroke of midnight of the first of the month. So take that as you will. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please consider checking out lynxwoodworking.com. I'd love to hear from you if you've got something that you'd like custom made, either to celebrate a thru hike that you've done with your dates and trail name or something, or as a gift for somebody else. I love making that kind of stuff. So please check it out. Let me know if there's anything you want me to review next. And as always, thanks so much for watching.